medicine be your food, and he didn't know what I've just shown you there. He didn't know about DNA. He didn't know that the very DNA is made up of the food that we eat. And when I look in some supermarket trolleys, I think, how will their DNA ever be made? Because a lot of fast food, devitalized food, lacks amino acids, lacks polysaccharides, lacks minerals. It's like all empty calories. And those empty calories, they're not actually empty when they go into the body, they're usually stored. They're stored all over the body. Because they lack often those three essential foods which we looked at yesterday, which is fibre, which is protein, which is great fats, good fats, healthy fats. So that's what our DNA is made up of. But what I'd like to do now, I'd like to show you how a new cell is being made. And what we're going to do is we're going to remake a gastrointestinal tract cell. So gastrointestinal tract cell. All the information is in the DNA, how to make a whole new body. But it's quite incredible that in the gastrointestinal tract cell, the only information that's released is information to make a new gastrointestinal tract cell. It's like God has put an intelligence in the body. Now that DNA cannot leave the nucleus. It is true that it can be pulled out, and apparently it can be pulled out for 2 meters, and it's all coiled up in there. So a photocopy is made, and that photocopy is the RNA. So the RNA travels down to another section of the cell called ribosome. And ribosome is a little workshop, it's a little factory where the new cell is made. And I'm going to explain the making of a new cell, like the building also of a brick wall, probably more like a jigsaw. So the first brick goes down. What's the brick? The brick is amino acids. We're built up from amino acids. So my son James, he's my eldest son, he was born with my body type. No boy wants my body type. I'm little. Boys want to be big. Well, James changed his body type. And how he changed his body type was he worked out, intensive working out. And he supplemented with protein because it's the amino acids that are the building blocks of the body. In fact, I remember I visited him when he was about 30, he's early 40s now. And I remember I went into his bedroom and my foot kicked something and I pulled it out. Here's his bucket, this big bucket of protein powder, Mum. And you can get some good protein powders, you can get some not so good protein powders. You just got to read your labels. And if you look at James today, he's big. He's got a new little baby, and he's holding this little baby. The little baby's 5 months old, and his arm is bigger than the little baby. He's big. So you can change your body type, which is great. That's a positive aspect of genetics loads the gun and lifestyle pulls the trigger. That the food is grown. You see, in his book, The Calcium Lie, Dr. Robert Thompson, he has the figures there that show in the US, 50 years ago, there was twice as many minerals in the soil as there is today. Why so? Because remember, this question should be on our lips at every step. Why? Well, it's the way that agriculture's been done. The same crop is grown in the same soil year after year. And because the soil is getting devitalized, they put superphosphate in the soil and it produces show ponies of vegetables. Looks good, doesn't taste any good. I was in an organic farm about 3 weeks ago. It was in California. And the strawberries are the biggest strawberries I've ever seen. And I looked at this hill and hundreds, big red strawberries on every plant. It was huge. And the flavour, incredible, the flavour. And you know, Joe, he's about, I look like his late 70s. He said, when I was 15, he said, I was getting so sick from mixing up Dad's chemicals for the garden. So he said, can I try organic? So his father gave him 5 acres. Within a couple of years, 20 acres. Now the whole farm's organic. And Joe said to me, I can't believe the money we used to spend on chemicals. Isn't that interesting? So I think have fibre, so your plants again give you fibre. Number 4, so we're looking at the polysaccharides. Polysaccharides is in your vegetables and your fruits, and all the sugars. And the amino acids, we're getting that from the protein. The minerals, again, especially the vegetables, but the last one is the fat. So where does fats come into this? 50% of this membrane around the DNA is fat. And 50% of the membrane around every cell in the body is fat. The other 50% is protein. So those pieces of information alone are enough to tell us. No wonder fibre, protein and fat are the essential nutrients. They're the ones that we're literally made up of. Another illustration to show that we are what we eat. We've almost lost that. And one day he said to me, but I just crave sugar, I just crave carbohydrates. And we get a lot of ladies saying that come to our retreat. So they do 2 days of juicing, and then we feed them meals that are high in fibre, great proteins, good fats, and within a couple of days they say to me, I'm not craving the sweet. The more carbs you eat, the more sweet you eat, the more you crave it. Because it gives those quick highs, so it bound to give substances. So it protects the nerve cell, insulates the nerve cell, conducts messages through the nerve cell. So the fat is very important to protect the nerve cells. Next question. What are the best natural products for washing clothes? Deodorant, colour stone, what is the best shampoo for the hair? You really just have to walk. They're medication free, pain killing medication free, and yet at first that's all I was sent home with, and managing. But they have to work out. They have to strengthen that core, strengthen those core muscles. Because when you strengthen your core muscles, they're all connected to your spine. It strengthens your spine. So we have no say over the bone, we have total say over the muscles. So it's time to start strengthening the muscles. And a lot of people bend wrong. We should never bend like this. Have you seen the way a 2-year-old picks up a ball? This is the way a 2-year-old picks up a ball. See, the biggest muscle mass in the body, your quads, the biggest bone in your body is your femur. Why did God do that? He did that because that's where we should be lifting and bending. We should be lifting and bending, and that back should always be straight. Then there's no strain on the back. So many people get back problems because of the way they bend and the way they lift. So I've got big bags because I've got to have outfits for 4 different climates, big bag. So I always look for a strong young man and say, excuse me, would you mind? But if there's no strong man, and I look at it and I think, I've got to do, you know what I do? I bend my legs, I straighten my back, I engage my core, and I do it. Most people have back pain because of exactly what I've just been talking about. They don't protect their back. And I want to protect my back because I tell you, when that goes down, it's no fun at all. So strengthen the core. Have you done your push-ups today? Not fit for human consumption. I said, we're not asking you to drink the bottle. It's 1 drop. Because they go over the top with safety. And in Australia, you can buy eucalyptus cough drops. What do you think's in them? A drop of eucalyptus oil. If you don't have eucalyptus oil, you could use peppermint oil, you could use tea tree oil, 1 drop. The next ingredient is cayenne pepper. And I'm not going to put an amount there because some people can handle a sprinkle, some people can handle a quarter of a teaspoon, some people can handle a half a teaspoon, some people are even brave enough to have a teaspoon. I'll leave it up to you. And the next two ingredients are the juice of the lemon juice. So probably the juice of a whole lemon is what you do, and 1 teaspoon of honey. I assure you, you could put 4 teaspoons of honey in this and it wouldn't help with the flavour. It's strong. And with that, you mix it with half a cup of hot water. And you drink it. And if someone has a cold, whether it be a chest cold, a throat, sore throat, whether it be sinus, whether it be chest, the dosage is 3 a day. And within a couple of days, usually you're over the cold. Or as long as you're eating right and doing everything else right. It's come up on the board, thank you very much. So that's the flu bomb. It is outlined in my book, and we're very glad to know that the books are on the way. You've probably heard that. So that's the flu bomb. So that's something you can do with the garlic. We're going to be talking about ginger as well. And on Friday, I'm going to explore that. I put the cloth over it, and then I bind that to the baby's feet. And then I put a little sock on or a little bootie on. And I have never had the garlic blister the feet. My sister, she knew about this, so she decided to make it even stronger, and she finely grated the garlic, put it in a cloth, put it on the baby's feet, and within half an hour the baby was screaming. And they quickly took it off, and yes, blistered. The feet are blistered. It just came out too fast. But what I find when it's just got fine slices, then little by little the garlic juice is taken into the body. If you put up this on the feet of a little baby, within probably 5 minutes you can smell it on their breath. And an indication that it's been taken up into the body. Why would you do it? You would do it for a head cold. It can help to ease the congestion in the head. It can also help to ease the congestion in the chest. So I've done this to all my children, and I've done it to just about all my grandbabies. It's a very simple little thing. I used to do it to my son James when he was about 3. He used to often get chest colds in the winter. Now, when a child is often getting chest colds, you've got to investigate why are they getting so many colds. You know, I realised not until later that we backed onto a swamp. So we were living in a low, damp area. And when we moved to the rainforest up on the hilltop, no more winter chest colds. So you've also got to investigate. And we were living in about a 100-year-old little house, so I don't think the air was great. But what I used to do whenever he'd get a cold and his lungs would be a little congested, I put this on the bottom of his feet, I put a sock on him, put his shoes on, and send him out to play. Every step he's taking, a little bit more garlic's going in, a little bit more garlic's going in. And at the end of the day, I'd take his shoes and socks off to give him a bath, and the garlic looked like bits of dried out leather. There was absolutely no juice left in that garlic. Little by little, it had gone into his body. So that's the beauty of this little natural treatment, is how you can get garlic into a little baby. Now, I remember the church I was going to when my children were little, a lady came in with a pram one day, and as soon as she walked into the little, it was only a little church, all everyone could smell was garlic. And I'd done the natural remedy class the week before, and everyone knew that her baby had some garlic on the bottom of it. But it helps to just ease the head. A lot of people want something that's just going to take it away, but it has to listen to the body and don't do what hurts. Many people push through the pain. The pain is your body telling you don't do that. So you'll find different positions, different exercises. Often the best exercise is swimming because there's no weight on the hips. Sometimes rebounding, And what I'm doing now is the health bounce. I think everyone can do that. It's just a little bit. And you just listen and your hip will tell you what to do. You never aggravate it. But if you can get comfrey, C-O-M-F-R-E-Y, comfrey, it contains a growth stimulant. So if you could get some comfrey cream and just rub that in a couple of times a day, that can help regenerate bone. Next question. Does castor oil work on kilos? It's worth a try. It's worth a try. A lot of people don't do it long enough. So just keep doing it, keep applying it. Next question. Any poultice or natural remedy to heal a cavity? I have had great results with clay poultice in general. Now the eosinophils, they light up. They really light up. And they've got a nucleus in there that's got these little jumping dots in them. And the little jumping dots, you can see them jumping around, and they're histamines. So if someone had an allergy, they would have an increase in eosinophils, and then they have allergy-type responses. Those allergy-type responses could be rashes, could be hay fever, that's a really common one, because of too many eosinophils, because there's too much histamine. So I was looking at a live blood analysis one day on a girl. You see, we should have 2 eosinophils in a drop of blood. And if someone is sensitive to wheat, I'll see 5 or 6 eosinophils. If someone is, say, gluten intolerant, I might see 10 eosinophils. If someone's celiac, that's majorly intolerant, I'll see 21 eosinophils. And they're easy to see because they're bright. And you can see those little histamine granules moving around. So I had a couple in front of me. They come to our retreat because they wanted to get healthy, and she'd already had a miscarriage. They actually thought they couldn't have children. The lady was carrying a little bit of excess weight, and when I asked them questions, she had all the symptoms of a gluten intolerance. What were the symptoms? She got diarrhea quite a bit, she got rashes, she had bloating. And then I looked at her blood and I saw 20 eosinophils. And I said, well, this blood slide shows that you've got major allergies to wheat and dairy. They're the 2 most common. She said, yeah, I know, but I like it. And then I looked at her husband's, and he had the same. And I said to him, oh, this shows that you've got major. And he said to me, oh, what a load of rubbish. I don't have diarrhea, I don't have rashes. And she looked at him and she said, yeah, but you fall asleep in the restaurant. So that's another symptom. So you can have 10 people, all who are intolerant to wheat, and they can have different symptoms, but the most common are bloating and brain fog. So, I have to say what I do because it's obvious. No need for antibiotics, no need for painkillers, no need for sleeping tablets. That little boy had the best night's sleep he had in 10 days. That little boy and that mother are now educated. They're now educated and they know what to do. It's as simple as that, so simple. All we did was work with those processes that are already in the body to bring about healing. All we need is blood. The old saying on perfect health is perfect health requires perfect circulation. And perfect circulation means that my hands, my feet, every part of my body is the same temperature. And you know what that indicates? The blood's moving very well. And when the blood's moving very well, it's taking water, nutrients, oxygen to every cell. It's taking away the waste. It's got those white blood cells if we need them. It's an amazing process. So just understanding how the body works and working with it has a powerful effect. I was in Singapore in about 2015, and I met a lady. She was in her 80s. She said, when I was a young girl, I trained at Sydney Sanitarium Hospital in Moonga, and she said, we learned hydrotherapy. So maybe that lady's no longer with us. If she was with us, she'd probably be in her late, or nearly 100 now. So what's that? 50 years ago, if you trained as a nurse, you learned hydrotherapy, these water treatments. In fact, I've got the textbook. It's Abbott's Hydrotherapy for Nurses. I've got the textbook that every nurse learned because it's such a powerful treatment. Do you remember I told you about Dr. Kellogg? Dr. Kellogg from the mid-1800s, late 1800s, who had this huge health centre / hospital. And the doctor worked with him, said he was an excellent surgeon, but he rarely used surgery. This is what he did. Well, actually, he used nurses. His nurses were all trained in hydrotherapy, water therapy. And in the little book, The Ministry of Healing, page 127, it says the use of natural remedies requires an amount of care and effort that many are not prepared to give. But in the end, it's found that nature does her work wisely and well. It's a very powerful treatment, and I've used it many times with excellent results. And what you're doing is you're working with the body, with the immune system that we have in our body that was designed to heal itself. So then the $1 million question is, well, Barbara, what if the gut flora is broken down? How can you revive that? How can you revive that gut flora? You can. And then our blood will have the correct nutrients. We are the ones that choose how much oxygen our blood is carrying by the way that we're breathing. Getting into the habit of breathing through the nose will up the oxygen content at the cellular level. And when we're drinking adequate water and our blood is the perfect viscosity, it's much easier for it to take away the waste. And that waste, again, when it's in the blood, is dropped into our colon, through our kidneys, or if you're at Misty Mountain having a steam sauna and you're having a big sweat every day, a lot of it's coming out by your perspiration. So these are the organs of elimination that take away the waste. And remember, your lymphatic system sweeps away waste from the tissue, dumps it into the lymph nodes, and there's lymphocytes there if they're needed. And then the waste from that is dumped into the blood, and then the blood carries it away. Once again, another reason why we need to be well hydrated. I'd like to open the floor now to questions. So I think a few questions have come in on the immune system. Having had breast cancer, I'm now detoxing myself. What should I have for breakfast, lunch, and dinner? Well, the best way to detox, and we're going to be looking at the liver in another lecture, I think it might be tomorrow, and I'm going to show you that I can certainly fill 3 meetings on the gut, because did you know that it's about 10 metres long? Dogs, 1 metre long. And as we looked at yesterday, and we'll look at in more detail today, our gut has hydrochloric acid, and the hydrochloric acid is an important part of breaking down our protein, and dogs have 10 times the hydrochloric acid that we do. So our gastrointestinal tract, and the one I'm going to specifically be targeting is mouth, and also esophagus and down into the stomach. We had a guest that attended our program who had an ulcerated esophagus. So why did she have an ulcerated esophagus? Because the acid, and that's the only part of our body that should be acid, the acid had been coming up for so long that it had irritated and ulcerated her esophagus. Now that didn't happen overnight. And it's also another indication that many people don't know about their bodies. They don't know how to look after them. And surely it's the most important branch of education, but surely the most neglected. So we had when our kids were about adolescent age, we used to do youth camps and adolescent camps every year at our health retreat down in Melbourne. Our kids are all up and grown now. And I remember it was raining outside, so some of the outdoor activities we could not do. And I had a meeting with them in the afternoon for 1.5 hours. And the age of these kids was, I think that it was from about 8 years of age to about 14. And I had about 20 kids. How are you going to keep them occupied? Well, what I did, I drew the gastrointestinal tract. And I took them on a journey through the gastro. It's like I lost my speaker for a moment. And I lost my speaker for a moment. Here we've got it back. And I'm going to go back to I'm getting the meal ready and the little ones too. And I'm not quite ready. It's breakfast. You know what I give the little one? An apple. Don't peel it. Don't core it. You'll work it out. Is that right? How many adults peel it, core it? No, give it to them. They'll work it out. And you know what they think? Oh, they're so proud that you trust them enough with a whole apple. Now, little bits of skin might come out. Don't worry about that. And it takes them a while. So by the time they've eaten the apple, breakfast's ready. And at lunchtime, if I have a little one, maybe one of my grandchildren, and it's 12:30 and lunch is until 1 and he wants something to eat, I'll give him a carrot. How long does it take a child to eat a carrot? A long time. If I give them a biscuit, they're going to want to eat their salad. If I give them a lolly, if they eat a chocolate, I never ever gave my children, and I do not give my grandchildren those things, but do you know that when my grandchildren visit, we have dessert nearly every meal. But that's after they've eaten their salad and their potatoes and their lentils, and it might be apple pie, might be lemon pie. It's always made with natural ingredients. And I'm sure you're not surprised to know that there's one place my grandchildren love coming, and that is to my house. Because I let them come up at the table with me and cut the apple. I don't give them the sharpest knife in the drawer. I don't give them the bluntest one either. It's useless. And I usually say to them, don't cut your finger because I don't want blood in the apples. Yes, Grandma. Yes, and they're very careful. But we're going to get to child raising on Saturday afternoon. But it's a very important part of training children in the correct way to eat. And when I go to my children's house now, they're not all vegetarians, but you know what I noticed? They all eat a lot of fruit and vegetables. And they were raised with vegetable gardens, and no matter who I visit, they say, Mum, come and look at my tomatoes. Mum, come and look at my basil. And they're growing their own bits and pieces out there, even when they live in the city. So the mouth is a very important part of digestion because it influences the whole way down. And also feeding the children right. Apparently my book is arriving at 6 p.m. tonight, so it'll happen on sale tomorrow. I've got a chapter in that book called What Shall I Feed My Baby? And I'm very happy for you to take a photo of that part and give it to every mother you know so that we can start having healthy children. So we come down through the cardiac sphincter into the stomach. The stomach is an acid environment. And as we looked at yesterday, these folds that line the stomach are lined with gastric glands. And those gastric glands take up about 2/3 of what the gastric glands released. But down in here, it's called the parietal glands. This is where hydrochloric acid is released. This is where pepsinogen is released. And pepsinogen and hydrochloric acid, they unite and release pepsin. And pepsin is the enzyme that breaks down protein. There's only one food that's broken down in the stomach, and that is protein. That's why we need an acid stomach. It's one thing to eat sufficient protein, but it's another thing to make sure it's getting broken down properly. So pepsin is the enzyme that breaks down protein. For hydrochloric acid and pepsinogen to unite, it must be a very acid environment. And for pepsin to work, it must be a very acid environment. I've never met anyone with too much acid. If someone says, I've got a very acid stomach, do you know my response is? You must be breaking down your food quickly and very efficiently and very well. And they're challenged by that. Because they think they've got too much acid because it keeps coming up. It keeps coming up because the little gateway is weak. Why would that gateway be weak? Because the person's eating their largest meal at the end of the day, and when they lie down to sleep, the food in the stomach pushes against that cardiac sphincter, weakening it. It's not the odd day you might have dinner with friends. But it's not the odd day you don't eat at night. It's what you do every day that makes the difference. So I choose to eat my main meals at breakfast and lunch. And if I eat at night, it's very light. But occasionally I have dinner with friends. But if I do have dinner with friends, I do suggest that we can have dinner about 5:30. So I've got a few hours before I go to bed. I know in Australia, most people eat breakfast like a pauper, lunch like a pauper, and the tea is the king and the queen together. That's the problem. So it's starting to plan. In fact, really, before you go to bed at night, you should be thinking about breakfast. Do you need to put something in the slow cooker? Do you need to take something out of the freezer? So when you get up in the morning, it's not a huge effort. It's fairly easy to do. It's thinking ahead. So that's one of the reasons why the cardiac sphincter gets so weak. So it's just really a matter of eating most of your food at breakfast and lunch, leaving a gap between meals, and remember that gap should be ideally no less than 4 and ideally 5, sometimes 6 hours. What about children? Could children do this? Well, when I was breastfeeding my children, I breastfed them all till about 2 or 3 years, and they always had a sleep about 11 o'clock, and I breastfeed them to sleep. And when they wake up, we have our main meal at 2. Because if we had our main meal at 2, then I didn't have to give the children anything to eat at night. If tea was a bit early, if lunch was a bit earlier and not as substantial, we might have something light at night. And because we had a big vegetable garden, in the summer we could be out in the garden till the sun went down, come in, have a shower, a bath, sit together and thank God for our wonderful day and go to bed. So easy. So easy. But not everyone, of course, lives in that lifestyle. And I know a lot of mothers have told me that they serve the main meal when their kids come home from school, because that's when they're hungry. And then when the father comes home a few hours later, he's happy to eat by himself because he's had a big day, and the kids are quiet and happy because they're not starving, they've already had their main meal. When you've got teenagers in the home, a lot of people say, but it's really nice to eat together at night. Well, try and make it the lightest meal. Maybe soup. Maybe or make it a little bit earlier, but you just got to do what works for you. And a lot of people are feeling faint and think they need to eat when they actually just need water. Because the body doesn't know the difference between hunger and thirst. So that hunger pang that you get mid-morning is usually thirst. And by the way, because everyone's having a mouthful of water when I say that, And by the way, if you're thirsty with a meal, by all means have a mouthful. A mouthful of water is not going to totally negate the acid environment in the stomach. But if you are thirsty with the meal, it often indicates you sat to the meal dehydrated. We should never sit to the breakfast table unless we've had, well, I aim for about 3, nearly 4 glasses of water before I have breakfast. But ideally we should have 1 or 2 glasses of water before we eat breakfast. If people are wanting to drink with breakfast, it's a clear sign they're dehydrated. I always go to bed with a glass of water by my bed. And if I wake in the night, I always have a few mouthfuls. And so ends our first part of our journey through our gastrointestinal tract.